of grade 5, I get to work with the students. So I feel like I've been able to, in the last few weeks, particularly get to know your children very well. Although I did get to go to Camp Medina at the beginning of the year, and I do get to go on the final trip, which is a little ways away still. But time goes by quickly, so exhibition is here, and won't be long after that until their grade 5 year is coming to. No, please come in. So
I don't even think about saying take it away.
Well, okay, I will start by saying that not only, so this is of course the final project for the primary years program before your children move on to the middle years program. So it's basically, it's not a test. It is an opportunity for the students to take everything that they've learned over their years, all of the skills, their conceptual learning, knowing how to take action, taking all of that and having an opportunity to apply those things. And really what they're doing is they are creating their own unit of inquiry. So I'm sure that everyone here is familiar with units of inquiry. Your children probably come home and talk about the unit of inquiry that they're looking into or studying in class. And those are ones that are planned out by the whole staff. And it is something that's very scaffolded, opening it up for students to be able to ask and inquire and direct learning, but it's really managed by the teachers. We know where we need to get to. This one is, well, we know where we're going to get to, but we put the children in the driver's seat in many ways. But basically think of it as a unit of inquiry that they are driving.
And I think one of the words that's up there that's really important is process. This is a process. It doesn't have an end goal that we have a product that we're, going to wrap up with a bow. We're looking at the process that the students are on.
So it's a celebration of their inquiry skills to date, and it's this gradual release. So they've gone from JK right the way through up to 5, and along the way they've had this guided process. So it's heavily scaffolded at the beginning, and even during this year you will see a difference between the journals that we send home. So the first journal has got a lot of teacher input there, and that input might come from speaker notes in the journal, or it might come from the comments, the feedback that we're giving them. But gradually, as the units come through, you will see the children taking more and more responsibility for their journal. And where we are in place and time, the journal that we hopefully just recently seen was pretty much their own work, which is kind of exciting. So this is now their independent unit inquiry. That doesn't mean they're not thrown to the wolves. We're here to guide them, and there is a process. So we are doing things slightly differently this year. So we like to reflect and mix things up. And so the things they're doing are the things they've been doing from JK, is asking questions, they're researching, they're reflecting, and then they are documenting their learning, drawing conclusions. It's a pretty brilliant process. It's something we really enjoy. The three of us, 4 of us. Crystal's been involved for 3 years now. Yeah. So it's a pretty neat process, and invariably we get to the end of it, and the students say we want to do it all over again, which is kind of cool.
So one of the things that's unique about the grade 5 or the PYT exhibition is that it's something that is done in groups. So your children will be put into groups by us. They don't get to decide the groups, but they get to decide what they're interested in, what they would like to explore, and they'll have an opportunity to express several possibilities, and then we'll start to group and put the students into the groups from there.
So this year we've done something a little bit different. We've scaffolded it in a way that we haven't done before. So the photos you see here, the students are doing a take-apart activity. So they were given random things in brown paper bags, and they were put into groups of 3, which is based on a form of research that we're using in class. and their job was to notice and wonder what they saw, and then to take those noticing and wondering and form questions, and then they go into a different thinking routine called parts, purposes, and complexities. And all the while they're pulling apart this item, listing the parts and purposes, and then the final thing is they're looking at modifications. How would they put it back together again? Some of them actually did put it back together again. How would they modify it? How would they improve it? So we're overlaying the design cycle onto the inquiry process. And that's what we did this week on Thursday. Yeah.
The other part of that is just getting students to learn how to plan and think about what tools do I need, how can I use this tool effectively, and how can I work in a group? How can I listen actively to the person that's beside me, to their suggestions as well? And we do a lot to kind of facilitate the collaboration because it's such a huge part to get them ready for ministry.
The collaboration is?
Collaboration.
So for next year,
So we'll set up kind of boundaries and strategies for them to use to be able to collaborate more effectively. Because as they get older, they need to be able to collaborate more and more.
Yeah, this would be in grade 6. You'll see that more then.
Yeah.
So here's a bit of a timeline that we'll take you through here. So in September, Sarah and Rhonda led them through a few different experiences that helped them come to. They were essentially able to vote on the transdisciplinary theme that they wanted to look into for exhibition, and most votes wins. So it is. That's not it. It is how the world works, which is pretty exciting. So they know that, and give you a few more photos of the activities that Sarah and Rhonda were describing. Just trying to model all those little nuances, all those little things that they will be experiencing in a larger context through their exhibition.
And
So-
as you see, all these things are really student driven. Like everything here, they're doing on their own. They don't need a teacher to tell them what to do.
Yeah, so I'll back up now. So, sorry.
Just a flashback there to Kat's presentation.
Sorry, all over the place. So we started to kick things off with staff sharing some of their personal inquiries. And as they were sharing with students, we scaffolded it by providing a bit of a form for the students with questions so that they could start to pick up the commonalities. Regardless of what the people were inquiring into or exploring or trying to figure out, there are some common threads that run all the way through it. So just starting to get them to pick up those things and those details.
So all of these staff shared their guiding question. So Kat's question was it was her mum's question actually, how can I keep my children busy during a long boat trip? And so she was doing, I call it macrame, you call it something else. I'm right. Okay. And then Heather was doing, she is talented, she makes pots.
Pottery.
Yeah.
She wants to make a big mug.
Yeah, so she was talking about that process. John Hamlin was talking about he's developed a passion for stained glass, and so he was talking about his questions and how he found his expertise and the challenges he faced and that sort of thing. And Isabel is a carded athlete. She was talking about when she was younger, she discovered that her hands were really sweaty in the summer when she was playing badminton, and she wanted to find, this is when she was still at school, she wanted to find a way to basically make sure the friction on her racket handle was sufficient, that she wasn't losing it every time she hit a smash or whatever. Anyway, so that's that.
Those things all have been in the past few weeks, understanding the purpose, exploring, and we're getting to the point of finding those connections of what they would like to what they would like to explore for their exhibition, and that will be things that we tease out of them in the next 4 or 5 days, and probably in the form of questions. Really, instead of being, because then it becomes a project-driven exhibition. I want to make this. No. What is it you want to look into? What questions do you have? And then creating a plan from there. So, for that one. Oops, sorry, I'll just let you look at this. These are some of the ideas that How the World Works has us look into.
So we did an activity this morning where we did 5 very rapid science experiments, and the experiments were looking at different forces, and there were different things coming out of the experiments, and the children were rotating around the stations. They had to read and think the instructions, they had to carry out experiments, they had to document the experiments, they had to document their questions, and they had to collaborate. And that was a mini microcosm, if you like, of exhibition. And then from that, we drew their ideas of questions they'd like to investigate further. So one of the items was in Rhonda's class. Do you want to describe the launcher?
Oh, so we had them look at all these different kind of projects at the end and look at the science behind it, but then they had to create their own science experiment. So take a question that they had, take a hypothesis, and then draw on that to go forward with another experiment, create a materials list, create a procedural list, so that somebody else could replicate their experiment. And one of the ones that we did was we looked at cotton ball launchers that has the elastics that propel the cotton ball out of the cardboard. And some students wanted to look at if I change the length of the elastic bands, will that allow my cotton ball to go farther? Or what about if I change the cotton ball, because the cotton ball is quite light and it also has it's very fuzzy and it sticks on the sides. What about if I made it something smooth and heavier? Would that propel my propeller farther? So good questions, and they found ways that they could look this up. They're looking at just isolating one variable at a time to create their experiment. So they were very excited. I think when we stopped them and said, "Oh, it's recess time," they're like, "Oh, why did you go further with this?" So, and that's what we want, because these are the sorts of things that they can look into, right? They can look into anything that's child-led, that's student-driven, and that they have an interest for.
So every unit of inquiry has a provocation, and so for this particular unit of inquiry, we've designed 3 provocations. So we've described 2 to you already, and the third one is on Thursday when we're going up to Scott Fitness Centre, and Holly Johnson has a background in kinesiology, that kind of thing, so he's helping us out. So it's very much a team thing, and that's the beautiful thing about exhibition. The mentors are going to come from staff, and so and that's not just in junior school, but it's in middle and senior school as well. So this provocation on Thursday that we're going to is called Physics in the Gym. We're going to investigate how the skeleton works. There's different exercises that we're going to do. We're going to look at some of the machines in the Scott Fitness Centre. So that doubles as a transition event, as well as an investigation as well. And from these 3 events that we've described, the Take Apart science experiments today and the Scott Fitness Centre, that is providing a scaffold. If the students have no idea at all what they want to do, then there are 3 things for them to draw upon. So it's not that awful panic of I can choose anything, because they identify it as part of where we are in place and time. But sometimes choice is a difficult thing. If you've got too much choice, it can be immobilizing. And so that's really why we designed it this way.
It also gives them practical experience of the parameters that we're setting. So the parameters are that it has to fit under the trend statement of how the world works. It has to be something that they are able to work on their own. It can't have any dangerous machinery. It can't have hot things, sharp things that you need an adult present for. That's not gonna happen.
And we've learned that along the way as adults. So in the past, we've done cooking with them, we've done woodworking with them. We've looked at homelessness, we've looked at distracted driving, and these are all things we've arrived, this is a process for us as well, these are all things that we've arrived at the understanding that the 10-year-old needs to understand. It's got to come from the 10-year-old, the 11-year-old, it's got to be driven by them. It's not us putting our knowledge or putting our ideas into their heads, it's got to come from within them.
They will have a supportive mentor, as Sarah Ron mentioned. exhibition. We have 14 mentors secured, so that is groups of 3 and a couple of groups of 4, so nice small groups. And the mentor will meet with them once a week, and they will figure out, that's one of their jobs, the students' jobs, is to arrange those times with their mentor. So they have to take responsibility for that as well. So.
Those groups of 3 come from research carried out by Peter Lillyhall, who's a professor of math from SFU, and he spent 16 years looking at how children learn in the classroom. He's been in the classroom, it's not an academic study, he's been out there. And so he's found that the grouping of 3 is the most productive. If they're in a group of 4, they tend to split into 2 twos. And so that's why this year, again, that's a new thing this year, that we're moving towards is these groups of 3. In the past, we've worked from groups of 3 to groups of 5, but most were in groups of 4.
So carrying on the rest of this week and next, just getting the exhibition group sorted. They will, by the end of next week, they will have met with their mentor and started to figure out dates that they will meet regularly, as well as thinking about any experts or any possible field trips that they could go on at the beginning of April to help them with their research. So getting that done ahead of time will allow them to step back when they get back in April to right into digging deep into exhibition.
I'm not sure if you said this, but exhibition is done at school, solely at school, just so that if your child comes home and it's like, oh, I'm going to get a start on it during spring break, I'll get everything accomplished. No, it's a collaborative. They need to be with their group and they need to be doing it.
Having said that, what you can do at home is if you notice that they are getting very anxious, it is quite an anxious time, please let us know. If they want to build prototypes at home, they can do that, but they will need to be able to teach their group how to build those prototypes, because anything that's built at home will be rebuilt at school. And we do that just so it's child's work.
So child's work and also that
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So basically all of April, they will be doing an exhibition every day. That they are here, not every day all day, but every day there will be time devoted for them to work in their exhibition group, meet with their mentor.
So this is a time that would be really wonderful not to have orthodontist appointments or something like that, because if they're not here, their group is going to have to go forward without them, and they will be missing out on the decision-making process for their group.
So I think we alluded to this earlier, we overlaid the design cycle with the inquiry process. So they've been using the design cycle all year. So the heart models, they had to come from 2D to 3D. With the heart models in our first unit of inquiry, we've used the design cycle in our vermiculture games, where we taught the grade 2s and Ks how the worm's life cycle went. And there is the blood model homework, that sort of thing. So they've been using this cycle all the time.
And so it's embedded in our journal. As you know, you've seen the journal quite a few times. This journal is slightly different because in the other journals we've had a central idea for them, we've had lines of inquiry, we've had key concepts. They are developing that part on their own. And another part of the exhibition journal that's different is we have a part that in April that they will fill out daily, which kind of relates what they've done that day and how they're going to plan for the next day. It really helps keep them on track because it can be really easy to come in after a weekend on a Monday and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. But if they have their notes from the day before, oh yeah, I remember I did this experiment and I wrote down for myself that this was the next thing I needed to do. And so it keeps the time wasting at a minimum.
So this journal will be located in your child's Google Apps for Education folder, in their hand-in folder under Exhibition. So if they do get anxious, you can always pop onto that and have a look. You can email us, but that's accessible for you to look at through the process as well.
your children will present multiple times, so there is not just all of the students watching one exhibition presentation. There will be different locations, and you can move around. And we encourage parents who are able to come for either the whole morning or the whole afternoon, or if you'd like to come both days all day, that's great too. But we will get those exact times of the morning and afternoon out to you as soon as we have probably as soon as we're back in April with the groups being settled and that sort of thing. So.
And part of that process is at the end of each presentation there is a question and answer session, and that is a really hugely important part of that process. So we would ask that you come to at least a couple of presentations, and if you could participate in that question and answer session. And it's not to trick the kids, it's often you'll find people asking questions, Rhonda and I, Leanne, if we know that a child has researched something that they haven't drawn out in their presentation, we'll ask them that question, so it's supportive questioning, but it's a hugely important part of the process.
And by the end of it, by the fourth one, almost all the students are like, I want to do it again, I want to do it again. Because that repetition just makes it so much easier for them, and by the end they're very comfortable in their learning.
So I think we've touched on most of these ways to support students, and I think maybe the one that I highlight is the third bullet. It's a collaborative, it's a group process, so it's inevitable that they're going to run into challenges, and even just little things from some of the activities this week, which they got through, but just, oh, don't touch that one. They're sharing the Google slide. Don't touch that one. No, you're supposed to put it down.
They're using the wrong color font.
Use the wrong color. You can see the little things happening already there, just working out, figuring out how they're going to approach these things, how they're going to work their way through these things. Some of the challenges will be small, and some of them might be ones that require us to help them through, but just always encourage them that there is a solution. There is always a solution to whatever difficulty they're possibly thinking that they're facing, and we will help them through that. And if you can also encourage that being constructive and that positive, and it's all going to be fine, and we're going to get through this together.
And that's one of the things about having the staff do their personal inquiries is every single one of them faced a challenge at some point where, I was going to make this and then this happened. And so for the students to see that it's not just something that children face, adults face it too. Adults face challenges as well. We all face challenges when we take on a new inquiry. So it's kind of an overlay of learning that there's challenges when you're doing a research project, but also there's challenges when you're working with other people. So it's a double whammy.
Sorry, I missed this. Are the children in the group collaborating on one project or helping each other with their 3 individual projects?
It's one project. Now they might be, just depending on what it is. So one of my group last year, they all ended up creating or having their own time to build something or create something, but the process was completely collaborative. They had to research the same things. They helped each other out. Other ones will actually be completely group.
I have follow-up questions. What comes first, the choosing of the topic or the putting into the groups?
The question.
The
Questions
Yeah.
come first.
What question? What do they want to explore for exhibition? We use that to put them into the groups.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions. So if a child wants to work on something but no other children in the room want to work on that, how do you?
So it depends. So if there's a unifying theme, so friction can come in a number of forms, and so it may not be the obvious choice. We've got quite canny over the years because kids will sometimes apply. They know that their best mate over here is applying for this thing, and we're pretty good now at picking those out and finding different ways to put them together. So they might be designing an experiment where they're all working together, or they might have an overarching theme where they're going down different lines of inquiry, and that's Leanne's been doing this for I don't know how many years.
15 years. So I mean, the big overarching thing is it is a group. The IB does expect at this level for it to be a group collaborative endeavor. When they get to personal project, they get to have, they're doing it individually. So they will be working in a group, and depending on what they're exploring, there could be it could look slightly differently. One group might build, create, or do something that requires all of them all the time, and others might be just, the collaboration piece might become in the finding out, but they are not doing like in groups, doing completely separate projects or anything like that.
We had something similar to that during COVID because COVID, the way that COVID was, and it just wasn't beneficial to the students.
All stuff.
Was-
Did anyone come last year to exhibition? We opened it up to grade 4 students, parents. Did anyone come to it? Okay. So you'll see a few differences this year. Yeah.
Oh. It's very, I would say up until this point, we were still coming out of COVID, where we had to we had to pivot for exhibition, and it became people exploring similar things, but we had completely different projects. Then I'd say came back from that kind of got sorted a little bit, and now we're really back into group endeavors and things that they can do on their own. So I was cooking with my group one year, but it required me to be there in their presence, working alongside them at every moment, and it's just not possible to have that happen. They need to be able to, whatever they explore, it has to be done by somebody of their age. So, and using materials and things that are, and they have 3 weeks, so they can't, they might want to order something, or we might want to order something, but it has to be something that's pretty readily available. This is, they do have, as I mentioned, in personal project, maybe I shouldn't say anything because I don't want to spoil where
It's fine.
they have a lot more to work with when they get into.
Well, they start in September of their grade 10 year, and they just presented last week. So,
Right.
And the kids all went up last week to see them, so they might have been chatting about that. It is the grown-up version of this, right? But it's individual and completely student-driven.
And so the making process that they go through in exhibition is part of their research. So if they choose to build something or modify something, then they might have various iterations of that. So they might have a prototype, and then they might amend that prototype. And we encourage, so if things are built at home, if prototypes are built at home, nothing should be thrown away. It should all come into school, and we encourage them to keep it so that they can talk about, I used to think, and now I think. They can actually articulate their change in understanding.
Because not all things are going to work out exactly as they think they're going to. So sometimes they are creating something and wow, it really isn't what I thought it was going to be. But that's still a learning curve, and you're still, the process of learning and the process of exhibition is still valid and valued. And so that's why we say it's a process and not a product, because we don't want them to be hinged on the product being this lovely thing that's tied in a bow, because that isn't the way learning happens. Learning's messy.
So it's perfectly possible for them to have a product that didn't work out, and if they reflect on the process, then they can have a really successful exhibition that way. And that's good, because we don't want them to be hung up on perfection.
I would say the top 2 things that students reflect on every year are, don't choose something because your friend chose it, because now we've got 3 or 4 weeks of spending time goes by. They think they have all the time in the world, and so that in and of itself is so huge to be able to walk away with that time management piece. So, last one? Nope. That was it. That was
Does anyone have any other questions?
Just wondering whether there could be like a formal evaluation of their exhibitions, or they're,
So part of exhibition is that they're setting goals. They are self-evaluating. We evaluate what they're doing in the context of what's gone before. So their journals, so Rhonda and I are constantly assessing, and that assessment might come in different formats. And the journals that they do, their process, their collaboration. We're giving them feedback formally and informally all the time.
We
So-
also give, there's also an aspect of peer feedback as well.
The purpose from IB's perspective is that everything is student driven. So they're deciding what they want to explore. They're deciding what with us, what the criteria is, how well I know I've been successful, what is that going to look like, and then at the end evaluating themselves against that criteria. So yeah, and then you will have a chance to sit down with them as well individually with your own children to go through that process with them and look and see what they said about what their successes were and what were the parts that were challenging.
So we're holding student-led conferences this year, and this is the first time in grade 5 we've done it for maybe
Pre-COVID.
6 years, I don't know, quite a while anyway. And we're going to go through the journals, that will be the grade 5 student-led conference. And I can't remember when that is.
To get an in-depth look at exhibition.
End of May, is it?
It's in May. I will get the date. I will get the date, so I'm guessing. Sorry.
Any other questions? Well, you know where we are. And please, anytime you have a question at all, just send an email to one of us, because the quicker we can answer it, the better, especially if it's a student question, then we can answer it as well.
So
Yep.
just one question.
Student-led conferences on May the 8th.
And this is kind of random, because I don't think this is going to happen, but if they're not saying anything to us about exhibition, like if they're coming home and they're just not saying anything, not talking about it, is that a problem? Is that what we need to be thinking, oh, maybe we need to be finding something out here about what they're actually doing? Or is that just going to happen
So
without
that might be a time to go onto their Google Drive with them and say,
Okay.
hey, let's go on Google Drive and see what's going on in your journal. Can you lead me through this?
Okay.
That's okay.
They are going to be more tired. This process takes them off of their regular schedule, the regular way that they do things, and anytime you mess with their schedule, it's new, and so it makes them tired. So they will be tired at the end of the day for exhibition. You'll notice that they're a little bit more tired. Yeah.
If your son is obsessed with sports, you can find a theme for him to go with. I mean, I'm wondering if you, you focus them when they have a topic that.
One of the things with passions is that there's a whole bunch of different perspectives that you can look through, different lenses that you can see that passion, and so I'm sure that you can find a way to have his passion and fit under the terms and conditions.
So you guys don't like, no, not that one, no, not that one. You
But
always-
as I said, they have to be in the parameters, so we're not going to build a NASA-sized rocket, right? Because it doesn't fit within the parameters of
Time, resources.
Student-led, right? And so it has to be something that they're able to research and understand on their own. They're able to, as Mrs. Jones is saying, it has to be things that are materials that we can easily find. And so there are parameters on them, and so it's within those parameters.
So today he was asking questions about, we were using different types of projectiles and how they flew. And he wanted, he said, well, an experiment I could do is how does the shape of the projectile affect the flight or the distance? And so then when we pushed him a wee bit and said, okay, so what does that look like? How do you standardize that? And he goes, oh, well, I practice throwing a lot. And we go, no, that's not going to work. And then he comes up with, oh, well, we can get a ball machine. And so now we started to think about changing one single variable.
And then having to weigh the balls and make sure that measure them so that they're the same size and that you're only using one variable. So,
Then it's physics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference is in years past we had these projects that they were interested in sport, and all of a sudden we were trying to build like full-size soccer nets in 3 weeks on their own. And just so those are the types of things.
But then
that-
what are you exploring too, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's the,
Yeah.
you need to
I
pick
think you're
something deep
exploring
enough.
your teacher's patience.
Thank you, that's great. And it's only a month, eh? Is that same as always? He seemed to say it was shorter than.
6 weeks. term. So we're doing 2 weeks before, and then
Oh,
we've got 4 weeks we come back. And it's good this year because Easter doesn't interfere. Normally we come back and we have a break for Easter, and we come back again. But Easter is part of our spring break this year.
So is it this week they have to tell you their topic?
By the end of term, they should have their essential idea. We'll help them craft the central idea, and they should have their groups, and they would have met with their mentor once. And that mentor meeting is really to set up any expert visits that they need, so that when they come back, they hit the ground running in April.
And would you do that, when you start doing May, June, is there another unit of choir?
Yeah, because how we express ourselves.
It's lovely. It's poetry. It's really chill. It's at the beach. It's just really
Summer,
figurative language, and it's all that still language, and it's beautiful. Really, really beautiful way to end.
So you incorporate a lot, sorry, what was that?
Students love it.
Oh,
They
that's
love it.
nice.
And it's like, like poetry. And then by the end, can I write another poem?
Do you incorporate a lot of the other classes into this, like art or music or not so much, or?
Yeah.
Yep.
So our mentors are made up from specialists, home form. We've got science teachers from senior school. We've got librarians from senior school. We've got MYP coordinators from senior school, middle school. We've got all sorts of people, and there are people, different home form teachers who've stepped forward. So it's really a community event, which is a lovely way to celebrate for the staff as well.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.